आज का विषय है कि व्हाई प्रोसेस्ड फूड, व्हाट आर द हार्मफुल इफेक्ट्स ऑफ प्रोसेस्ड फूड एंड व्हाई होममेड फूड इज मोर हेल्दी। और इस विषय के ऊपर चर्चा करने के लिए जुड़े हैं हमारे साथ श्री दीपक भाई त्रिवेदी।
ये होता है।
दीपक भाई एचएचएल के पार्टिसिपेंट भी रह चुके हैं और बहुत सालों का उनका इंडस्ट्री का एक्सपीरियंस रहा है। उन्होंने एमएस यूनिवर्सिटी से मैकेनिकल इंजीनियरिंग किया है और उसके बाद इंडस्ट्रियल मैनेजमेंट में भी पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन किया है। उसके बाद उन्होंने बड़ौदा और कनाडा के अलग अलग कॉरपोरेशंस में सीनियर पोजीशंस पे काम किया है। और उनका ये जो इंडस्ट्रियल एक्सपीरियंस है वो हम सबके साथ आज वो शेयर करेंगे कि किस तरीके से प्रोसेस्ड फूड को मैन्युफैक्चर करने के लिए क्या क्या उसमें दिक्कतें हैं और क्या डेंजर्स है। तो दीपक भाई, मैं आपका स्वागत करता हूं आज के मंथली मीटिंग में और आपको रिक्वेस्ट करता हूं कि आप अपना प्रेजेंटेशन शुरू करें।
Thank you. Just Ravis bhai, thank you. And uh, are you able to see my presentation?
यस दीपक भाई।
Yeah. So today presentation is thank you very much Ravis bhai, and I'm very much thankful to Dr. Bharat bhai for providing me opportunity. The the reason why I'm sharing this presentation is uh, I have worked in the process industry, including food, pharmaceutical, uh, and uh, energy sectors. And I came to know about, I learned a lot of things. And based on my learning, I thought that some of the information which might be useful to understand the reality of the food manufacturing industry environment. So that is my purpose, and which might be useful to make a better choice for the food. And it comes to the wise choice of having the homemade food. So I'm sharing my screen, and yeah. So at present, I'm working as a director at Aveda Engineering Limited, Calgary, Canada, and I'm transitioning to the retirement lifestyle. And I learned a lot from the 41 years of experience, and uh, that includes a lot of in the design, operation, maintenance, reliability, regulatory compliance of food process equipment across the chemical, food, pharmaceutical, oil, gas industry. So during my interaction with the management and the field staff, they gave me a lot of insight of the reality, because what is on the paper and what is being marketed is something different than the reality. So my almost 40 years, I live with the environment where the manufacturing process, food, pharmaceutical, energy, and all. So that gave me a lot of insight. My intention is to give back to the society by creating awareness on the healthy food habits. And many thanks to Bharat Bhai and for providing me an opportunity and the guidance to uh, fulfill my intention. So, so mainly my experience specifically in the food and pharmaceutical industry inspired me to share reality and help society to create awareness on the health risk associated with current trend of increasing consumption of packaged food, processed food, and ready-to-eat food. So at present, we see increased number of sudden deaths due to the heart attack, and we have seen that many young um, guys, many young persons are uh, meeting the death because of heart attack, sudden death. Hope my sharing of the information will be useful to understand why readoption of habit of our ancestors who were consuming homemade food and they were avoiding outside food and the packaged food from the food industry. This is need of the present time for healthy living. So now when we talk about this, then we need to some information regarding why there are risks existing with respect to the food which is prepared outside and we are consuming outside food. The the reason is there is a lot of use of the pesticides to preserve the bulk source material and the time of use requirement and the consistency of quality is not maintained during the sourcing of the raw material. This is based on my experience because when raw material is sourced, the major criteria is something related to business economics and the acceptance criteria laid down by the company. If their acceptance criteria are too stringent, they will not be able to source the material, raw material, food ingredients from the market at a very competitive price, and that will not be sustainable for the business. So, and the second thing is all the procedure standards are prepared to maintain the food quality at the food industry is based on the risk management strategy and they do not cover all the risk. So when we talk about hazard analysis critical control points, which is the standard and they normally call as HACCP, based on that, the any company will develop the procedures and standards and the FDA Food and Drugs Act will approve those and they will be allowed to go further with the manufacturing process. Secondly, now the distance between manufacturing place and consumption place is increased. Earlier, the regionally available food and manufactured food were available to the local people and the food manufactured very far from the place was not available. But right now, though distance is increased, it is available. So anybody can have a food from globally available food is for everybody. And secondly, now growing season and the use of the produce during the off season. So storage has more challenges. So sometimes we store the mangoes not and we use the mango in the season when mango is not there, but where those mangoes are stored, how they are stored, and how what kind of preservatives they use that affect the contamination level and ultimately those are going as a food inside our body. So another point is the food quality versus the food safety. No common understanding in at large is that the food safety and food quality, good food quality is safe food, but food quality is something related to laid down defects evolution. So if it has to be crispy, if it is crispy, quality is good. If it is to be salty to certain level of salt, it is okay. If it is color like this, it is good. If it is weight wise, it is good. It is packed properly, good. But it does not address complete food safety requirement. When it goes inside our body, what happened to our health? Whether those contaminations which are not a part of quality inspection evaluation criteria, those are risk and those are the hazard for us. Now, based on that, there are so many things WHO, World Health Organization, and the latest report which I have right now is the 19th May 2022. And as per that report, the 600 million, almost 1 in 10 people in the world fall ill after eating the contaminated food and almost 420,000 die every year, resulting in loss of 33 million healthy life years. Healthy life means the people are not able to live the life, enjoy the life. They either stay in the hospital, they take medicines, they are not physically fit to do their carry on with their life. and almost US 110 billion is lost each year in productivity, medical expenses resulting from unsafe food in low and middle income countries. So now another is alarming point is the children under 5 years age carry 40% of foodborne disease burden because they are very sensitive, and with that 125,000 death every year, that is children under 5 years. This is the WHO data. The foodborne disease restrict the socio-economic development by straining healthcare system, harming national economics, tourism, trade, and more. So now there are each food industry is passing through the certain business cycles. So any food industry, this is not very specific to one industry, food industry, but it is very general. But all the food industry will pass through these steps: incoming raw material, that is the farm good, and processing of those good, then packaging, then storage and transportation. So now if I talk about the global supply chain complexity, I'm taking one example of the burger. So here it is taken as a global, so you will see some non-vegetarian content too, but in the message is how many ingredients we are using in the bun or bread which is being used in the burger. So now we go to the McDonald's burger or Burger King, or maybe the burger available in the fast food restaurant. How many chemicals are there in the burger? You can see there are a number of chemicals, right from the sodium steroids, potassium sorbitol, ethanol, ammonia chloride. All these are part of the one bun. Then when we go to the cheese also have a lot of sodium phosphate, sorbitic acid, artificial color, acetic acid, soy lactic enzyme, starch, and also the cucumber, and they also use as a preservative. So there are lot many ingredients going in the simple burger, right? So it is not a one ingredient that is being, we see the burger patty as a one item, but it has lot many other things too. So now when we are talking about the globalizing the cheeseburger, now what is happening that nowadays McDonald, though it is American company, it is also available in the India also. So McDonald is not sourcing one item from one place because their procurement is global to reduce the cost. So they, even a single item like a vinegar, they have a lot of sources available. We can see this everywhere. The climate is different, environment is different, manufacturing is, the practices are different. Even garlic powder, they are procuring from many places. Tomatoes, they have a lot of options. The beef, we are not concerned on that because it is not our food. And the white gluten also they are procuring. So when something which McDonald importing and giving to the McDonald retail store and people are eating that, they don't know what they are eating. So now the recent report from the British Medical Journal, it is very recent report. I would say maybe 1 month before, they have identified 9 ultra processed food to never buy again. So what are those 9 food? Those are the fries, French fries, like packaged soup, sweetened breakfast cereal, chips, crepes, ice creams, biscuit, carbonated drinks, fruit flavor yogurt, chocolates, like candies. So those are the things. The recent report from the British Medical Journal, it is nothing to do with the food industry, but it's a medical journal. That means there is something strong correlation between the food available in the market, processed food, and the diseases what medical journal has identified. So now, when we consider as a major food hazard, microbiological hazard, pesticide residue, misuse of food additives at the food industry, chemical contamination, including biological toxin and the adulteration. So these are the things. And when business is the prime motive and ethics and the public health or consumer side is the secondary, then all these major food hazard becomes more likely, more potential, and it is a risk to the healthy living. Now, key reality of the food safety hazard. What are the key, because during my association with the food industry, the infection contamination are likely to occur in food production facility at any stage of the production, any stage, right from the unloading the food ingredient from the transporting truck to the warehouse, to the silos, storage, to unloading on the belt conveyor, sorting, separating, slicing, taking into the trolley to the preparation area, then go to the cooking area. Every place it is possible and it is potential, and those incidents are there and alerts are created. But when it comes to the recall or some illness, it becomes very difficult and challenging to positively recall the cause or attribute the cause for that, because there are multiple factors and complicated procedures. Now, implementation of contamination prevention guideline and identification of all hazard causing the contamination are major challenge, because whether it is small scale industry, large or medium, any food production industry, before they start the production on the mass scale, they have to have a hazard analysis, and they will make a proof guide prevents contamination prevention guideline they will develop, and they will follow that. And any food regulatory authority, when they go to the food industry, they will do the audit and they do inspect based on those guidelines. They cannot deviate, or cannot go outside that boundary of the contamination prevention guideline. But from where these guidelines are coming? From identify hazard. Now, when all hazards are not identified, they have identified, say out of 100, they identify 80. What about other 20? Those are not part of contamination prevention guideline, and those are at risk. And this happens to many big industry, and they have all brand protection based on contamination prevention guidelines. Once they follow that, they are not legal actions are not enforced on them, and everything gets on the corrective continuous improvement. But what happens to the person who is consuming that food? That is their high risk. Now, I will take some of the areas where I have observed that what kind of the risk, or what is the reality to certain factors which I have observed is the establishment and the equipment design. So what regulatory requirements? Food production companies are required to install properly designed equipment which can ensure the production of the safe food and healthy food. Now, what is the reality? When they start, any company, when they start the production, they have to have a capital budget. And during that budget, they want to build the facility, manufacturing facility at a low cost. At that time, they reduce the capital cost and make a significant compromise on the layout. Why layout? Because they have a limited land. If they have a large layout, then they have to build the bigger building, and that will not be cost effective. When they go to the equipment design, they go select the low grade material, less hardened material, and also they save the money on the establishment infrastructure. And this, so because of that, lot of frequency issue of contamination after they start the production. So because the facilities could not be maintained properly or monitored properly, because the equipments are not having the proper monitoring requirements for the instrument automation like that. So this result into the high likelihood of the cross contamination from maintenance tools, conveyor belts, and other. Now, when we talk about the cross contamination, we understand that one food product, another food product, one ingredient get mixed, but it's not. In a food production industry, the unintentional physical movement or transfer of biological, chemical, physical hazard, any hazard from person, from object, from place to another place, another object, another person. So it could be person to person, person to object, anything. So there are a lot of combination for and the reasons for cross contamination. Now the potential issues with the equipment is when I was part of the tomato ketchup in the select production, uh, then I observed that there were old equipment, rust, paint, debris, and more. So it is not necessary equipment has a debris or rust, but it can be also the wall, it can be the floor, it can be the structure, it can be the ceiling. From anywhere, it can go into the product. So those are the all the chances of that. Now, when they use the filter, they have filter mask screen. Now, how you know that filter mass screen metal particle has gone? Once it goes to the end that metal detector, and then the afterwards screen is replaced. But there are a lot of small particles like bacterial growth, then risk related like pesticide, chemical contaminant, metal rust are the risk related to this. So this causes the illness due to unsafe food. This is basically source for the unsafe food. So that ends into the recalls and malnutrition, unknown effects on the internal organs. Though it is quality pass, it is not safe. So now another part is cleaning and sanitization. This is little dirty secret of all the food production industry is that the cleaning and sanitization is not adequate, not efficient, and not traceable also if it is inefficient. Because all the cleaning and sanitization process and policies in practice require to be adequate to control all contaminants as per the regulatory requirement. What is the reality? All contaminations are not known during the hazard analysis. So sanitization and cleaning process is also not adequate. Secondly, those things are implemented by either machinery or by the manually. When it is done manually, implementation of cleaning and sanitization policy procedure is also not followed by all the time. So person to person it varies, and that does not reflect in the how final product is contaminated because of that. The risk of contamination is with the poorly clean equipment is potentially ignored. Lack of cleaning validation. Cleaning validation takes a lot of time. It stops the production cycle. So validation of the cleaning, whether done properly, testing and verifying the contaminant on the concealed area is very difficult. So older equipments are difficult to clean because of the rusting, and secondly, do not meet the cleaning and sanitization requirement of the standards. So these are the very critical area, and some of the things which I can speak from my experience. Any mechanical equipment needs a motor. Motor shaft, when it is not running, has a air gap. That is a warmer area, and the normal temperature there is high, it is also because of the cleaning with the steam or water is the moist also. When it is the warm, it is humid, bacterial growth is there, and every time remove the motor shaft and clean is not practical also, and it is not being clean. So reality is we are living with the production environment where food is prepared and processed and packed and put in the market, but we don't know from where this food is coming. So potential risks is toxin on the surface, cross-contamination, bacterial growth, biological degradation of food ingredient during production. And as I mentioned that there are bacterial growth, pesticide residue. If it is not washed properly, you will see the pesticide, even chemical contamination. The okite is a chemical which is being normally used in the food industry. It is like a detergent, but it is approved by the FDA and the US FDA. So okite is, but it is phosphate based. It is phosphate based. So there will be some rusting because of that over a period of time. Now, negative impact is, as I mentioned earlier, it is unsafe food. So all the unsafe food have a effect on our health. Now, another thing is the employee practices, because when we buy the fruit from the food production industry, they don't do manufacture food uh, with the one person. They have many employees, and each employees are required to follow the standard practice of sanitization. Now, HACCP hazard analysis control critical control points, the what which are identified every employee to sanitization standard follow SOP standard operating procedure to prevent the contamination. For that, effective training and the employee practices are implemented all on continuous basis. Now, what is the reality? Reality that in food production industry, what the cooks, chefs, operators, production assistants. I have worked in the as a production assistant in the pharmaceutical company, the food industry. I know that cooks and chefs with the longer fingernails, unsanitary employee practices, human error in handling, virus due to unhygienic practices, and inadequate training. And they are reusing the unclean clothes because they will not throw cloth every time. Adequate hand washing. So there are two types of ineffective hand washing and inadequate hand washing. Both are different. So even the management is not committed to HACCP program because of the lot of cost to maintain those programs. So these are the area which is the reality in the food manufacturing environment. So this is potential risk of bacterial growth because of virus, cross contamination, bacterial growth, and whatever food comes out of this kind of environment is unsafe, though it is packed in nicely packed, but we don't know what is inside. You will feel the same taste. You will have a physical appearance will be same, but what kind of contamination inside it, which is not sensed by your tongue or by eyes, is going inside the body, and internal organs are getting damaged over a period of time. So now the another part is related to the when we use the cook the food at home, we don't buy in the bulk. We buy what we need. And but in the industry, the food ingredient raw material is procured in a bulk. So they have made some requirement from the trusted sources only with the if to waste prevention and control and only intentional handling of the raw ingredient. But now in reality, it is not the case. So cleaning, sanitization of storage bins, silos. So every time the food ingredients in silo is changed, Silo has to be clean, sanitized, and complete food ingredient has to be taken out, empty. But it is not done it that way. So business economics overrides during the selection of raw material sources. They will go with for the lowest offer and they use that food ingredient because final cost of the food product is important for business. The effectiveness of the pest prevention versus residue pesticide. So now this is the catch. When in food industry break even point, where to stop for pesticide and where to ensure the pest prevention. If they use more pesticide, they are successful in pest prevention, but residual pesticide level will go high. So the food produce in the food industry very less likely to meet both the requirement. So either you take the food which is poorly maintained from the contamination of the from the paste, or you have a more residue of the pesticide going inside the food. So another part is the contaminated wash water. So every food industry does not have a clean water available. They have limited water because their permit to use the water is also limited. So they recycle the water sometimes. They filter the water, reuse. Those things are contaminated water to wash the surface is contaminated, still contamination is there. Also, the sampling size is also not adequate. They don't go with the 100% sampling. Statistically, they go with the acceptance criteria. So their sample size is based on the statistical requirement for approving the raw material, and based on that, acceptance criteria are compromised, and temperature abuse during the handling, human error, inadequate cleaning. Those are the area where it is creating the contamination. So basically, it is a microbiological hazard cause contamination, bacterial growth in the raw ingredient. So when it is being processed further in the industry, it is going to go high. And when it reaches to the table where we are eating, it will be high. And either we heat or cool or freeze, still bacterial growth is there. So biological degradation of food is not sensed by us unless it detaste or you feel that through your taste or tongue, right? And then only, or physical form, then only you will realize something is wrong. Till that time, you are not having any feel of contamination when you are taking that food. And ultimately, the disease and illness get spread. So another part is the premises physical separation of the area and HVAC automation. When there is a food preparation area, food segregation area rejected, accepted, when the area is limited, they put the rejected food and accepted food very close to close. So there is a cross contamination. At the same time, the HVAC is the heating, ventilation, air conditioning, where the temperature is of the food manufacturing area is maintained. That itself is carrying the bacteria through the filters. Filters are not cleaned properly, and the contaminated air will directly come in contact with the food ingredients or intermediate food product during the preparation and the food industry. And those kind of things are unavoidable because 100% clean air is not there because they are recirculating there. So what is the reality? Capital cost, the priority plot areas required for proper separation handling are considered as a non-productive investment. So they only provide the production area which is required for production. They don't provide more area because that will increase the cost. So relying more on the human input to reduce cost on the automation. So they always ask the operator to maintain the quality, but it is not possible for anybody to work in the limited area and maintain the safe food requirement. So potential issues due to this are cross-contamination, incorrect temperature when HVAC system is not working properly, bacterial growth happens, and use of rework not controlled carefully because they don't throw the rejected food. Sometimes they mix, then lower down the highest permittable limit of the contamination, then again they pack and sell into the market. So another point over here is when we see the expiry date is longer, we consider that as a better food. No. When expiry date is longer, that means it has more preservative, more chemical contamination, and more care is taken to avoid any bacterial growth. But all food are biological products and bacteria, the decay is natural. And when we stop this natural decay, we are creating contamination, which is not good for the health. Another part is the food production industry has a lot of equipment like a pump, belt conveyor, slicer, agitator, mixers, grinders, and also the packaging equipment like plastic wrapping and all that. Those equipments are to be maintained properly, but when there is a production requirement, everything goes back on the back burner, and always the maintenance schedules are delayed till something is noticed, some event happen. So old equipments are kept in the use. Many times repairing activities are carried out while food processing is going on. When food site production process is going on, they are doing the repairing on the one equipment, and just nearby there is a food processing agitator is running, or belt is running, or grinder is under maintenance. So those are the one cannot stop the company all the equipments to maintain one equipment. So this simultaneous activity is creating the risk and the hazard for the safe food requirement. So unnoticed contamination of metal particles, rubber particles, Teflon particles are very common issues with the food industry. But these are the issues known to the people who are working there. The people who are consuming the food product outside the factory from the retailer or some other place, they don't know about those issues. So major factor for cross contamination is establishment, equipment design, cleaning, sanitization, employee practice, storage, premises, physical separation of the areas, and HVAC system. So real issues with the procedures and policy. Now when procedures and policies with the big large companies are very good when it goes to the documents. But when we go to the real implementation, we see the issues. Those are personal hygiene, preservation and preparation, pest control, waste management, because any industry, food industry has a waste, food waste, the biological waste, everything is there. So if waste is not managed properly, those waste will decay and it will create lot of contamination issue. So temperature controls, all the time the food is to be preserved at certain temperature, they call TCS, temperature control for safety. So those are left to the temperature gauges, 24 hours monitoring. If something goes wrong, is not attended same time or very quickly, so food will see the temperature which is not good for maintaining the safety of the food. So food safety hazard identification is the another part. So when we receive the ingredient like an apple, when see something is inside the apple is decay, those apple will go into slicer, slice will come. It will get mixed with the good apple, but those hazards are unnoticed hazard. So it is difficult to control those hazards, and they control the final product. They inspect the final product, but still bacterial growth is already started. When it reaches to the table or consumer, you will see the more bacterial growth, and it is not good for the health. So as we talk about the hidden contamination on the food processing equipment, the research has proven that the warm, wet environment present on the equipment, and this encourages the bacterial growth. Corrosion is always there because acidic alkaline media during the food preparation plus sanitizing time, and also the flaking of the paint from the building and wall and the ceiling and the machinery, also the water entry. When we use the water as a cleaning, and it will enter into the product, and sometimes we use the water as during the preparation also. The risk of contamination with a poorly clean, maintained, monitored equipment is potentially ignored. So when equipment itself is not clean, it is not considered as a part of the quality control. They go and inspect, but if procedure is followed, documents are signed, who has cleaned that, his name is there, time is there, and supervisor has just identified the steps he has followed. So validation is not there. So those are the things in the industry creating the risk for the health. So now very interesting part is the FDA is the Food and Drugs Administration, is the regulatory agency in the US as well as in India. They have also accepted the fact that some unwanted addition to our food are expected. They also say that whatever ingredients are there plus unwanted addition, not by intention, it is unwanted, are always there. They have accepted. So that for that reason, US FDA provision identify what should be the minimum amount of the defects allowed by the FDA. So they have allowed the defects minimum. Why? Because they know that it is economically impractical to grow, harvest, process raw products that are totally free of non-hazard, naturally occurring, unavoidable defects. So they are allowing, they only want to control the avoidable defects. So unavoidable defects are going into the food product. So now, so FDA meaning for the defect is term defect to describe minimum amount of the rodent, other animal feces, maggot. Maggot means something like a larva without leg, and maybe single cellular or multicellular, that comes from like in Gujarati we call the massi like thing, small insect. Then animal, human air, parasitic cyst and rot allowed in our food. That is the allowed. If it is up to that limit, it is there, it is allowed. Food is passing as per FDA. Now, as per FDA, I have just taken this from the food defect action level. So when the defects are going above that, they inform the food industry to take action. If it is within this range, they don't take. So I have taken one food item from the FDA source, handbook source, and I put that as a tomato paste or pizza sauce. They allow 30 or more fly egg per 100 gram of the product. 15 or more fly eggs, 1 or more maggots per 100 grams, and 2 or more maggots per 100 gram in a minimum of 12 subsamples. So they have linked that with the quality control sampling procedure. So now with this, what we get the understanding on the food manufacturing in the industry, or food which is processed in the industry and come to us as a final food to eat, and we decide to eat that, we can one is the information that one need to understand is food can get contaminated at any point of production and the distribution. So once it is in transportation or at the go down, at any place it can get contaminated. Difficult to correlate food quality and food safety. One cannot say that for the potato chips is crispy and everything is good. It is not contaminated or it is not safe or safe, because busy and aging population has a desire to improve individual health. Everybody wants to have a good health, but still the food habits or food we are taking from outside is not meeting our desire. So consumer is required to know where, how food is grown, processed, if adequate contamination control measures are in place during the processing. Now here the alert is, now in India and everywhere, the consuming the outside food becomes one kind of habit. And the many places the food is prepared on the roadside in open area, which is not hygienic to make the food, prepare the food. Still, we like, and many young people like to have food like that. So that is the one of the many major reason why the health is major issue with the young guys. Understand the impact of business sustainability strategy, brand protection policy, and resource limitation. Now, when we talk about the sustainability strategy, it comes to the cost, it comes to the market share, and it comes to the covering certain area of the consumer where the demand is small. Now, the brand protection comes in the picture when there is a recall. So, recall of the any food product initiated by food manufacturing industry is considered as a positive part, considering that they have a better quality control to identify that something has gone wrong, and that's the reason they are recalling. But if you see the flip side of that, recall is actually done after the food product is almost sold in the market and it reaches to the consumer. They don't recall from the each consumer, they recall from the go down. And if you see, recall is there as a just like a on paper, right? And this is for brand protection. They make a policy. If something goes wrong, how to protect their brand. They are not concerned about the consumer health, but they are more interested in making the policy to protect the brand in case of any illness due to their food product. So they have already policy to protect themselves, and that normal consumer is not knowing that. And second is resources are limited. How long government regulatory agency will keep on chasing each and every step in the food production industry? So they only audit at certain interval. They are not continuous monitoring is not there, enforcement is not there. So it is very difficult to understand that whatever we are consuming from food produced from industry is safe or not. So what could be the wiser approach? So in this socio-economical environment, there are lot many reasons why people go out and take a food. There is a socio-economic environment which is prompting, but now one need to be smart on the food shopping, spend the time for the cooking at home, reduce the consumption of food prepared outside, and any investment of cooking the food at home is very beneficial in this at present, and it will take care of the family because the food available outside, cook outside on the roadside or the store, freezer, freeze, frozen, or maybe for food industry, packaged food is not good for health at all. So public places used for food preparation are not hygienic. Do not follow the crowd. Consumption on Focus on the consumption of the safe food. Everybody is going, so we will also eat there. It is tasty. No. So don't follow the crowd. Make sure that it is safe for your health or not. So another thing is recall of contamination food product is not to be considered as a protection layer for our health. Because sometimes we understand that this food industry is taking back the food which is not safe. That means they are very quality conscious. They are conscious about our health. No, it is not. It is not considered to be as a protection for our health. Do not put our health at risk due to unmanageable performance issue with the food industry. Gaps, known and unknown, quality control systems, delayed initiative by designated regulatory agency for compliance and required enforcement action. So regulatory agency they have limited resources. They are not taking the initiatives and enforcement action in time. So during that time also there is issue. And when it comes to the major illness spread across the mass, then only they come and take some action, and that is only alert. And it is a matter of investigation. So this is what I wanted to convey based on my experience and make sure that what is the quality and what is the safe food requirement for our health, good health.